Tonight, schoolboys, teachers and their family members kidnapped from the Government Science College, Kagara, Niger State, regained their freedom after 10 days in captivity. Once again, Nobel laureate Professor Wale Soyinka slams government for what he describes as its failure to secure citizens, calls for shutdown of any state where mass kidnapping occurs. Governor Samuel Ortom of Benue State demands probe of the 100 billion naira earmarked for the Ruga project. And Myanmar's military ruler sacks the country's envoy to the United Nations after calling for help to remove the army from power. Plus we have sports, business and later international news.
On business news tonight, onion producers in Sokoto begin official export of 4,000 tons of produce to West African countries.
And on sports news tonight, Manchester City extended their winning run to 20 matches and moved 13 points clear at the top of the table after a 2-1 victory over West Ham.
It's a breath of fresh air for the schoolboys and other people abducted from the Government Science College in Kagara, Niger State, about 10 days ago. They were said to have been dropped off near the state's border with Zamfara state, from where they embarked on a journey for close to 7 hours to Minna, the state capital, where they were received by Governor Abubakar Bello, who confirmed that the kidnapped victims were 38 in number. Governor Bello told journalists during the reception that the people had been medically checked and will be further monitored as they are reunited with their families.
I can confirm that all rescued victims from Kagara Science College are here, 38 in number, even though we have one still in the hospital suffering from excessive exhaustion. Alhamdulillah, thank God, they are back here with us peacefully. They've been medically checked, and I believe the medical team will monitor them for a few more days. They have been through tremendous torture. This is a joint effort with our security agencies. Yes, we have rescued them, but we still have a lot of work ahead of us. Going forward, we are putting in place a system to look at the causes of these events. In the next few days, in the course of my conversation with major stakeholders, I hope we will find solution to this bastardly act. So the children are here, as you can see. Since they arrived this morning, they've been properly taken care of. And like I said, their family members will come here. I think most of them are here to take their children back home.
I will have more on the situation, the latest situation concerning the kidnapped students from the Kagara Science College, that's the Government Science College, Kagara, who have now regained their freedom. Meanwhile, the president has welcomed the release of the students and teachers as well as their family members abducted from the Government Science College in Kagara, Niger State. In a statement, President Muhammadu Buhari commends the nation's security and intelligence agencies as well as the Niger State government for their response in securing the release. He notes that the country will not continue to suffer attacks that threaten the growth of education, security and lives of its future leaders. President Buhari reiterates his earlier advice to school owners, particularly states and local governments, as well as religious organizations, to scale up security around their schools in line with the standards laid down by the UN-backed Safe School program of the administration. In a similar development, the parents of the students of Government Girls Secondary School Jangebe in Zamfara State have set up a camp within the school premises in anticipation of the release of their children. One of the parents told our correspondent that they had been in the school since morning and will not leave until they hear the good news. They said they saw a number of trucks going into the bush but couldn't tell where they were headed as no one was telling them anything. Meanwhile, the police have dispatched 2 surveillance helicopters to reinforce the ground troops of the IGP Special Forces and operatives of Operation Puff Adder around the suspected areas where the girls are possibly being held. The State Police spokesperson, Mohammed Shehu, informed journalists that the Command CP is currently leading ground troops on the rescue operations.
The Commissioner of Police, CP Abu Tiaru, FDC, is currently on a recce operation, a recce mission at the scene, and he is commanding these 2 contingents of Special Forces and Operation Puff Adder. They are presently at the nearby locations, nearby forest, where the kidnapped students are believed to have taken to. This effort is ongoing and is being intensified, and I don't want to expose some of the strategies we are doing in the rescue operation mission, but I want to assure the members of the public that the police in this issue is doing the best, is doing a very wonderful job towards ensuring that the abducted students are rescued hale and hearty.
Staying with security matters, Nobel laureate Professor Wale Soyinka is once again raising his voice against the recurring kidnapping of school children and general insecurity in the country, saying that those in charge of security and governance have failed the nation. He says Nigeria is currently close to a state of accepting the culture of the unacceptable and has called for a shutdown of states wherever there is a kidnap. He was speaking in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, during the launch of a book written by him.
The abduction of our children. When will it end? How will it end? I don't think any one of us can tell. But it is important that we continue to stress and to remind ourselves not only that these are abnormal times, but it seems to be, to me anyway, times of the shirking of responsibilities in very key areas. We cannot permit ourselves, we just cannot continue in this fashion. Something drastic, meaningful has to take place, and it has to be collective. This is no longer the responsibility of those at the top, supposed to be in charge of security, in charge of governance. They have clearly failed the populace. They failed us. There's no point trying to reason it out, to find excuses, to lay blame or whatever. The important thing is that we're very close to accepting a culture of the unacceptable. I think we're reaching the point where in any state where any child is kidnapped, that state should shut down completely. And other states, in sympathy, in solidarity, should at least shut down some of their activities. We shouldn't wait for an enemy, faceless, airborne, unpredictable enemy like COVID to shut down, to make us shut down, to say in protest and as a statement of the unacceptable, we are shutting ourselves down until this situation is resolved.
All right, let's take you back to our lead story on the release of the students of the Government Science College in Kagara, Niger State. Well, the governor has already told journalists that the people who were kidnapped alongside the students had been medically checked and will be further monitored as they are reunited with their families. Our correspondent, Emperor Simon, tells us more.
Exhausted after a long walk through the night, these rescued abductees from Government Science Secondary School Kagara stopped at the Ahmadu Atairu Secondary School Kagara to catch some rest. Then, hours later, the rescued abductees arrive Mina and are taken to the state-owned hotel within the metropolis. Journalists are barred from the facilities as security personnel and government officials are seen keeping vigil. But camera lenses still capture the victims as they alight from the buses that convey them. Some are still in their weak state and have to be supported into the hotel as government officials handed them face masks in observance of the COVID-19 protocols. As the waiting continues, relations of the rescued students are anxious as they are told they could not see their loved ones due to their condition. They express mixed feelings.
Learned that they are out healthy. So now we are urging to see them any moment from now.
It's not been easy. Most importantly, our own mother. She's been weak, frustrated, and we just had to keep petting her, keeping her down, knowing that she has come of age and weak as well. So we had to keep applying method to make her understand that they are doing well. I've even got to the extent of telling her that we have heard from them, only that they have not yet released them. So she should keep praying. That's what I tell her every day, that they will soon be back at home. I feel extremely excited, knowing that he is well and will come back to his own family.
At exactly 4:40 p.m., they arrive at the government house, and one after the other, they alight from the bus and make their way into the hall. A few minutes later, the state governor Abubakar Bello arrives, and without wasting any time, he addresses them and all those present.
I can confirm that all rescued victims from Kagara Science College are here, 38 in number, even though we have one still in the hospital suffering from excessive exhaustion. Alhamdulillah, thank God, they are back here with us peacefully. They've been medically checked, and I believe the medical team will monitor them for a few more days.
We make attempt to speak to some of the students, but security personnel would not allow them speak. Yet some of the boys oblige.
We have 11 days in the bush, every day walking. We just eat, we can eat just one time, drink one time.
The experience we live in the bush, there are many. But now, even my body is not feeling well.
With the event over, the rescued persons are taken back to the hotel where they will be until they can reunite with their families. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
The Northern Elders Forum is also weighing in on the kidnapping, saying that the incidents will severely damage the poor state of education in the north, particularly girl-child education. In a statement, the forum's Director of Publicity and Advocacy, Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed, explains that the group shares the profound shock and outrage of Nigerians at the spate of kidnappings of boarding school children in different parts of the north. The forum notes, it has become painfully obvious that the federal government is unable to muster the will or the capacity to limit exposure of Nigerians to violent criminals. In spite of assurances from the federal government that it will end banditry and kidnappings, the life of the Nigerian is becoming more endangered by the day, and citizens have lost faith that governments will reverse the successes of the criminals against defenseless citizens. The forum challenges the northern governors to explore all lawful avenues that give them more power to improve the security of citizens, such as powers to establish policing structures, including those with specialization, such as forest rangers, and should now be pursued as a matter of national priority. In part two, after the break, it's one of the COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria. Well, it's 1 year of the COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria, and we'll take a look at how the fight against the virus has played out in the country. Do join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Schoolboys, teachers and their family members kidnapped from Government Science College, Kagara, Niger State, regained their freedom after 10 days in captivity. Once again, Nobel laureate Professor Wale Soyinka slams government for what he describes as its failure to secure Nigerians, calls for shutdown of any state where mass kidnapping occurs. Governor Samuel Ortom of Benue State demands probe of the 100 billion naira earmarked for the Ruga project. And Myanmar's military rulers sacked the country's envoy to the United Nations after calling for help to remove the army from power. The Department of State Service, the DSS, has arrested the special advisor to the Kano State Governor, Malam Salihu Yakasai, over his comment demanding the resignation of the President, Muhammadu Buhari, and APC governors due to increasing insecurity in the country. Mr. Yakasai had, in a series of tweets, criticized the Buhari administration over the insecurity pervading the nation, saying, quote, "Buhari is insensitive and lacks empathy." Mr. Yakasai's family had declared him missing, but later announced that it had been confirmed that he is with the DSS. Meanwhile, Governor Abdullahi Ganduje has relieved Mr. Yakasai of his position as Special Advisor Media over what the state government described as his unguarded comments and utterances. The governor also warned political appointees and public servants to guard against making statements capable of generating controversy. A few months ago, Mr. Yakasai was suspended by the governor following a related tweet, but was later reinstated. The Benue State Governor, Mr. Samuel Ortom, is calling for the probe of the 100 billion naira earmarked for the Ruga project, saying that the project has failed. Governor Ortom made the call at the National Executive Council meeting of the Christian Association of Nigeria in Makurdi, the state capital. The CAN president, Reverend Samson Ayokole, on his part, says the association has developed a new national plan for peaceful and harmonious restructuring that will allow components units determine their fate.
Leaders of the umbrella body of Christians in Nigeria, the Christian Association of Nigeria, led by its president, Reverend Samson Ayokole, traditional ruler of the Tiv people, Professor James Ayatse, and Benue State Governor Samuel Ortom converge in Makurdi, the state capital, for the association's next meeting. First, the Tiv paramount ruler admonishes the clergymen and leaders of thought to combine faith with work to salvage the ruins of Nigeria and save it from the precipice.
Prayer is a demonstration that we have faith that God will do the needful for our dear country. But the Lord is calling on us to go beyond prayers and move to action, to demonstrate the works that must accompany prayer.
Subscribing to this admonition, the president of the Christian Association of Nigeria condemns what he refers to as injustice in the judicial system.
If our justice system is compromised, then there is no hope for common man. The president of the Court of Appeal did our work and sent that work to the Federal Judicial Service Commission. There it was hijacked, and the merit list was totally jettisoned for a fraudulent, what I call a fraudulent list. That didn't respect equality in terms of where you come from, balance between states, balance between religions.
Governor Ortom restates his position about those he says are threatening the peace of the country and demands a probe of the failed 100 billion naira Ruga projects.
From 2017 to 2018, I wrote 5 good letters to the presidency, alerting them, especially when these threats came, and I knew that Benue was as the front border. I did, and no action was taken. I wrote to the security agencies, no action was taken. And as you can hear, and there are other press interviews that Mayor Tiala came out clearly and accepted that they took responsibility for the killings in Benue and other parts of Middle Belt. And those people are in Abuja under heavy protection of the security forces of this country. Nobody have invited them for a question when they took responsibility, as these people have said.
To douse the growing agitations by various components, groups and individuals over insecurity, injustice and inequality, the government may have to redouble its efforts to effectively address these national challenges.
It's exactly a year since the outbreak of COVID-19 in Nigeria. Well, the virus is believed to have originated from a wet market in the Hubei province of China in late 2019, from where it spread around the world. February the 27th, 2020 marked its debut in Nigeria. Since then, almost 1.5 million samples have been collected for testing, far short of the 2 million mark going by the rate of testing. About 40,000 samples were tested in the space of the past week. Since the beginning of the pandemic in Nigeria, there have been over 155,000 confirmed cases, over 132,000 recoveries, and 1,902 deaths. Now let's look at the ratio of the figures in this pie chart. The large area in red represents the number of people who have recovered from the disease so far, and it comes to about 85.5% of all confirmed cases. The area in white, with more than 20,000 active cases or people who are currently battling the disease, takes up about 13% of all confirmed cases, while the little silver of red is 1.2% and represents those who lost the battle to the virus. Lagos, Abuja, Plateau, Kaduna and Oyo states are the most affected, with the highest number of confirmed cases. Lagos, indeed, is the epicenter, with Abuja coming in a distant second, and both major international flight routes. Kogi, Zamfara, Yobe, Cross River and Kebbi states are the least affected, according to the statistics. And Kogi has not recorded any cases for several months, and Cross River just had its test center restored after the EndSARS protests. Following the importation of the virus through an Italian national into the country, it soon became a dire situation as it spread to 14 states, with cases rising to 224 and fatalities reaching 5 in just 2 months. Our next report captures how Nigeria has managed to navigate its way through the pandemic in the last 1 year.
Time, they say, is a healer. But the last 1 year of battling COVID-19 in Nigeria has hardly healed the emotional pain and agony, as well as the economic losses suffered by many citizens as a result of the pandemic. Nigeria recorded the index case of the virus on February 27, 2020. An Italian had imported it into the country, and in a matter of days, it spread to 14 states, with Lagos, Ogun and the Federal Capital Territory being hit hardest.
118,000 cases.
By March 2020, the World Health Organization declared the outbreak a pandemic, making countries to scale up their response mechanism. The Nigeria government set up the Presidential Task Force to coordinate a national response to the pandemic. Lockdowns were imposed in major cities, including Lagos, Ogun and Abuja, as cases continued to rise, with many health workers getting infected and some paying the ultimate price. Dr. Tairu Yunusa is one of the frontline workers and the team lead of the Gwagwalada Isolation Center in Abuja. He provides an assessment of the way the pandemic has been managed in the last 1 year.
It is true that we didn't have what is called the doomsday prediction, as it is that dead bodies will be on the street in Africa. I know this because of our healthcare, systems and health facilities, the weaknesses. But we didn't have that. And we didn't have that. A lot of folks, a lot of people have actually done a lot of great work to make sure that we didn't have that doomsday prediction. So 1 year down the line, we say that, wow, a lot has actually gone. A lot of suffering has taken place. A lot of enjoyment has taken place. And I always know that sometimes when we sit down in the treatment center with colleagues now, and then all of us will say, wow, how did we survive this?
Apart from its disruption of livelihoods, the pandemic has also impacted negatively on responses to other killer diseases such as tuberculosis and HIV and AIDS.
Nigeria's response in the fight against TB suffered a decline due to COVID-19, and a new strategy is needed to ramp up performance.
Compared with other African countries, Nigeria has relatively kept infections and fatalities low. It also has a far lesser number of samples collected and tested. With a case fatality rate of 1.2% and recovery rate of 85.5%, Nigeria has proved naysayers wrong who predicted massive fatality rate for the country. But if you think the country is currently out of the woods, you may have to think again. Nigeria currently has over 20,000 active cases in the treatment centers. It has recorded over 155,000 cases and 1,902 fatalities since the last 1 year. This underscores the reason why the government is intensifying efforts to secure vaccines, but it's not certain yet when the country will get its first shipment of these life-saving preparations.
As of today, purchase orders have been raised by UNICEF Supply Division for the AstraZeneca vaccine. Under normal circumstances, with routine immunization vaccines, it takes 2 weeks from when the purchase order is raised to when we receive the vaccine in Nigeria. As soon as we receive confirmation on the date of arrival, we will also inform Nigerians.
1 year on and still counting, the coronavirus is still much around, and the way it continues to impact lives and livelihoods may hardly be forgotten, even with the passage of time.
And when the news at 10 returns, we'll have a chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Mr. Boss Mustafa, to discuss how the fight against the coronavirus has played out in the country. Do join us again. Welcome back. Lagos State, which carries over 30% of the COVID-19 burden, is still working tirelessly in managing the pandemic. This report examines the efforts of the state government in handling the crisis in the space of 1 year.
We identified him as positive. We are now tracking him from Lagos back to Ogun State.
February the 27th, 2020. That was the day the first case of COVID-19 was reported in Nigeria, and the landing point was the nation's commercial center, Lagos, almost crippling economic activities in the state following the lockdown declared to curb its spread. Managing the first wave of the deadly virus was a big task for the state government. Several isolation centers sprang up across the state to help in the care of people who had contracted the virus.
At the time I caught it, it was almost like a death sentence. So one had to, in so many ways, try to muster the courage to be able to try to defeat the disease, and that was largely emotional.
Frontline health workers had their hands full taking care of patients, and this did not escape the state government.
I feel it's a privilege for me. I wasn't expecting this. All the same, I appreciate what the government has done, what Lagos State has done.
10 months down the line came the festive period, and residents threw caution to the wind, and the number of infections spiked, ushering in the second wave in mid-January with such intensity that required the use of large amount of oxygen for critical patients.
We were were able to flatten the first wave very quickly and bring it under control. So at no point in time did the number of cases presented in Lagos exceed our capacity to manage them. The nature of the COVID-19 infection in second wave was a bit different from the first wave. It was obviously more aggressive, affected younger people, and it caused more people to develop lung complications and the need for oxygen. If the virus changes, if it continues to mutate and become more aggressive, then we may see a third wave in Nigeria.
In the next few weeks, Lagos State will be rolling out COVID-19 vaccine, according to Professor Bayomi, who says the health workers are overwhelmed with the crisis and hopes to turn a new page.
The decline in figures suggests that both our medical and our non-medical interventions are working. Our medical fraternity are exhausted. We have to refresh them. We want other kinds of issues to deal with. In the next few weeks, we will be rolling out the vaccines in Lagos. The deployments will be coming from Abuja. And then we will see, based on how much they send us, whether Lagos State has to procure its own vaccines.
So far, the state has recorded over 50,000 cases with over 47,000 recoveries across communities and 300 deaths. The state government says the battle continues and is asking all residents to adhere to safety protocols.
Now, for more on the one-year fight of COVID-19 in Nigeria, we're now joined live from Abuja by the chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Mr. Boss Mustapha. You're welcome to the News at 10.
Thank you, Ayo. It's a pleasure being on the news today.
All right, how would you assess the fight against COVID-19 in Nigeria 1 year after the virus was detected in the country?
Well, I want to start my comments with expressing on behalf of the President and the people of Nigeria our deepest sympathies to the families of 1,902 persons that have lost their lives as a result of the COVID-19 infection, and also to congratulate hundreds of thousands of those that have been infected and have survived, part of the members of my household, and to commend the frontline workers, particularly for their resilience, their commitment, putting themselves in the first line, on the front line to save people and to save the nation. So I think we've done very well in our national response. Our national response was robust. And you understand that the PTF was set up with a 6-month mandate, particularly to coordinate a multi-sectoral approach to mobilize resources and to ensure that the non-pharmaceutical interventions that were put in place were enforced so that we can tame and stop community transmission. And I think by and large, we've succeeded in doing that in the last 1 year. And in doing that, one of the first things that we did was to put a coordinating machinery that was functional and to also ensure that we had a response that elicited the support of the public sector, the private sector. And I can say without any fear of contradiction that never in the history of Nigeria have we ever experienced such a robust response. Bearing in mind that when I was appointed on a one-page letter with all the members of the Presidential Task Force listed without any definite terms of reference. So it was a Herculean task, but the intellect, the abilities of members of the task force, plus the purposeful leadership that we got from Mr. President, we were able to craft a national response that I can say by and large, most of the things that we did 6 months ago is what the entire world is copying today, especially in the areas of testing and the regiment of restrictions of movement. We've done very, very well in that. We were one of the first countries that put in place a need for PCR tests, either on outbound flights or inbound flights. So, it's after about 6 months, most countries are copying that now. So I can say by and large, our response has been successful. We've done incredibly well. There are still things that needed to be done, and we will try to make sure that going forward, we work assiduously to ensure that the health infrastructure in this country, which was exposed as a result of the pandemic, is repaired and fixed and recalibrated so that future pandemics will be dealt with more appropriately. I believe that we will leave a handbook for the next generation to work with. I didn't receive any handbook of previous epidemics or pandemics, but I believe that we will leave a handbook that will be very helpful to fight future pandemics.
All right, let's talk about testing now. In spite of efforts by the PTF to ensure that it's carried out vigorously in many parts of the country, it does appear a lot still need to be done. What steps are being taken as we speak to ensure improvement in this regard? Have you found out why the figures keep rising, apart from the issues of inadequate testing?
Well, in the areas of testing, I can tell you, we've done tremendously well. We might not have tested more people, as much people as we would have wanted. Our initial projection was that within a period of few months, we should be able to test at least 2 million people. Right now, after about a year, we've tested just 1.5 million. But I can tell you that when we started, even the infrastructure for testing was not available. We started with basically with a population of 200 million people. We had only 4 testing sites. The national lab here in Gudu, that is owned by NCDC. We had LUT in Lagos, we had the Redeemers University in Ede, and the infectious hospital in Irua in Edo State. Those are the only 4 molecular testing laboratories we had in this country. Today, I can report to you with every element of confidence that we've ramped up. We currently have 122 PCR laboratories spread all over the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. So that's a big improvement in terms of building our infrastructure for testing. The issues that have militated against testing, one is this idea of COVID-19 is for the rich, is for the urban dwellers. Those people that are resident in the rural areas have no need for testing. But we've developed a new strategy where we will be able to ramp up our testing, because it is very, very important. If you do not test, you will not find. And if you do not find, you will not be able to isolate the people so that they do not continue on the spread of community transmission. Right now, there's a program that is being driven by the Nigerian Center for Disease Control in respect of testing. 450 persons by each local government across the span of the 36 states with the Federal Capital Territory. By the time we achieve that, the number of tests would have increased tremendously. So I believe we will continue doing that in terms of ramping up our testing and ensuring that those that are infected are isolated as we eagerly anticipate the arrival of our vaccines.
All right. Yes, we definitely are keeping tabs on that one as well, the arrival of vaccines. But a quick one again, just wanted to get your mind back to the issue of the testing. The rising figures, why do you think that this is still happening, apart from the issues of inadequate testing? Or have you found out why the figures keep rising?
Well, the figures have been fluctuating. Right now, as a matter of fact, our figures have come down substantially. In the last couple of weeks, immediately after the Christmas celebrations and the New Year celebrations, we had warned sufficiently that the figures would rise, because during the times of festivities, Nigerians have a tendency of throwing caution to the winds. And that happened, and we saw the effect of that as the figures kept rising to 1,000 plus continually for a couple of weeks. But you can see that relatively the figures have started coming down. The last night's figure were within the region of about 500, which is relatively low compared to what we experienced in the past. And I believe that it is in the nature of the virus itself. We're still studying the characteristics of COVID-19, its mutation, new variants coming up. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done as to the understanding of the infectious and prevalent nature of COVID-19. In other countries, as a matter of fact, after they had tamed COVID-19, after the first and second wave, some countries like New Zealand, who have been adjudged to have been very successful in their handling of COVID-19, are beginning to experience new surges, and there are lockdowns on major areas and provinces of the country. So I believe that we will continue to experience these up and downs in terms of figures, because the complete nature of COVID-19 virus has not been established yet.
Mr. Boss Mustafa, Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, we do appreciate your thoughts on the news at 10. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
The Lagos State Judicial Panel on Restitution for Victims of SARS and Other Related Matters has decided to hear petitions filed against the Nigerian Army despite their absence yet again. The panel had given the Army authorities the last opportunity to appear before it today after failing to appear on 4 other occasions. On January the 30th this year, the chairman of the panel, Justice Doris Okwobi, had held that the petitions against the Army would proceed even if they failed to show up. At today's proceedings, the Army was again absent, neither were they represented by any counsel. The panel then moved on to hear the petition of a casual worker, Lucky Philemon, who says he was shot by the Army at the Lekki toll gate protest on the night of October the 20th, 2020. Another eyewitness to the shooting on the night, Dabira Ayuku, who described herself as one of the coordinators of the Lekki toll gate protest, also testified on what she witnessed.
At about exactly 4 p.m., I was with the public address system, and I was telling the crowd not to react if by any means we have the presence of the Nigerian police force or the armies, not to respond to anything, and all we need to do is raise up our flags and sit down. For me, I feel the sitting position was a sober position, so I said, everybody sit down, raise your flags, and chant the Nigerian national anthem. So in the middle of it, we were having music going on, and then at this point, myself and DJ Switch were the 2 ladies and a few other guys on the stage. And at about 6:45, thereabout, a lady by name Sarah ran to the stage and said, the armies are here. People started running helter-skelter, like confused. I was telling people to calm down, sit down. I don't think they were here to harm us. And as we were doing that, we started hearing the gunshots. And I turned back, myself and Switch, we turned back from the stage and looked in the direction of Sandfield. I think that's adjacent to Oriental Hotel, because we're on the stage, we could see afar, and we saw the army vans driving towards our direction and shooting at random at the same time. On seeing that, I tried to want to understand why are they shooting? Like, are they shooting at us? That was why we turned back and we're looking at them. And I saw them shooting up. They were shooting in 2 dimensions and shooting directly at protesters.
It's time now for some business news, and Teniola Shoboale is standing by. Tenny.
Thanks a lot, Ayo. Welcome to Business News. Onion producers in Sokoto State have commenced the export of 4,000 tons of the commodity to other West African countries with reopening of the land borders. According to the area controller of the Customs Service in charge of Sokoto and Zamfara states, exporters of cash crops must ensure that they get the approval and clearance of the Nigeria Customs Service before exporting their produce.
Nigeria is endowed with both natural and human resources, but one of its greatest assets is its arable land, which is suitable for crop production. Last year, the country's agricultural production was affected as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, flooding, and the outbreak of diseases, leading to an increase in the price of crops like onions, which has grown in most northern states. Before now, onion exports had been done illegally. But this time around, farmers are not taking anything to chance as they plan on exporting the product through the right channel.
The fact that Nigeria exports onion to Niger Republic, Ghana, Burkina Faso, Benin Republic, Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, etc. There is need to diversify the economic base of the country and create jobs.
Nigeria has the capacity to produce more than 1.4 million metric tons of onions annually, but challenges of poor storage facilities, inadequate support from the government continue to limit the annual production target. The Sokoto state government plans to take a lead in helping farmers contribute to the nation's drive for improving non-oil export.
We have collaboration between Sokoto state government and the African Development Bank that we are going to execute agro cargo airport, where we transfer most of our products without problems to other countries of the world.
The area controller of the Nigeria Customs Service in charge of Sokoto and Zamfara state has a word for all intending exporters.
Nigeria Customs Service has provided advanced solutions that will aid in a continued, reliable, and quality service delivery for the sustainability of global trade. Hence, I want to assure the national onion producers, marketers, and processors of Nigerian Customs Service support in facilitation of trade being the core mandate of the Nigerian Customs Service.
The receipt for payment of the levy is then presented to the exporters, while trailer loads of onion are ready for export to neighboring countries such as Mali, Niger Republic, and Senegal. Hopefully, this milestone will be sustained in the days ahead.
The federal government is urging mining companies to integrate host communities into their operations to foster good relations between both parties. According to a statement by the Minister of Mines and Steel Development, Sir Olamilekun Adigbite, such relationship will create opportunities for youths within the communities, while stating that the government has provided a number of incentives to businesses to spur growth in the sector. The minister adds that the nation's steel industry, when fully developed, would drive job growth in the economy. He urged steel producers in the country to go into the production of flat sheet, which is vital for the development of the sector. And that's business news tonight. It's back to you, Ayo.
Many thanks, Taniela, for that. Now, Kayode Alaide is indeed standing by to give us the latest in the world of sports.
Thank you very much, Aya. Welcome to Sports News. The Lagos State Sports Commission has welcomed the reconstitution of its board after its membership was increased to 12 with the inclusion of women and youth. The chairman of the Sports Commission, Shola Ayekpeku, says that the new board has been mandated to make the state a hub for sports in Nigeria and Africa.
The idea is to sow the seed, the foundations for a sports industry that can be self-sustaining and grow. And we believe that with this board, that can happen. We need to create more events. We need to create the next steps for the youth and the younger children. So when they discover what next and what next and what next. Right nowadays, we have people only aspiring to compete at the National Sports Festival, which is every 2 years. So what happens in between 2 years? That's why you find that the growth level of our competitiveness is not adequate. We don't meet national standards except athletes go abroad. So why can't you do that here? We used to do that here for a while.
In the Nigeria Professional Football League, Abia Warriors have extended their unbeaten streak to 4 games after ending Wiki tourists by an odd goal at the Okigwe Stadium today. Fatai Abdullahi scored from the penalty spot to take the Umahia-based outfit out of the relegation zone. And in the English Premier League, Manchester City have extended their winning run to 20 matches and moved 13 points clear at the top of the table as John Stones' second-half strike was enough to seal victory over West Ham United. Stones fired home his 4th goal of the season from Riyad Mahrez's neat layoff to keep Manchester City in control of the title race. West Bromwich Albion kept their hopes of avoiding the drop alive with just a second win in 13 games under Sam Allardyce in a match overshadowed by a bizarre moment of refereeing by Lee Mason that cost Brighton and Hove Albion an equalizer. And Wara El Ghazi scored the only goal as Aston Villa moved within 6 points of the top 4 with an impressive victory over Leeds United at Ellen Road. That will be all on sports news. Many thanks for watching. Back to you, Ayo.
Many thanks, Kaide. Myanmar's military rulers say they have fired their country's ambassador to the United Nations after he called for help to remove the army from power. In an emotional speech, Kyaw Mo Tun said no one should cooperate with the military until it handed back power to the democratically elected government. The developments come as security forces intensified a crackdown on anti-coup protesters.
In the toughest crackdown yet, police in Myanmar clashed with protesters, detaining dozens of people. Several media workers were also detained. Despite the crackdown, protesters still gathered, their numbers building through the day. Some protesters said they were inspired to come out onto the streets by Myanmar's ambassador to the United Nations. He spoke out on Friday, making a dramatic plea at the UN General Assembly to help end the military coup in the country. He has since been fired by Myanmar's military rulers.
In addition to the existing support, we need further strongest possible action from the international community to immediately end the military coup, to stop oppressing the innocent people, to return the state power to the people, and to restore the democracy.
The Southeast Asian country has been in turmoil since the army seized power on February the 1st and detained elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi and much of her party leadership, alleging fraud in a November election her party had won in a landslide. The coup has brought hundreds of thousands of protesters to the streets and drawn condemnation from the international community, with some imposing limited sanctions.
And the main news again, it was a breath of fresh air today for the schoolboys, teachers and their family members kidnapped some 10 days ago from the Government Science College, Kagara, Niger State, as they regained their freedom. Also today, Nobel laureate Professor Wale Soyinka once again slammed the government for what he described as its failure to secure Nigerians and then called for the shutdown of any state where mass kidnapping occurs. That's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun from all of us here. Good night and stay safe.